Welcome back, guys. Or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the 2025 Chevy Trax. But more specifically, it's a 1RS trim level, so it has some pretty decent upgrades, and it's in a color called Crimson Metallic, which in person looks really nice. And today I get to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of this recently redesigned Chevy Trax to help you guys at home decide if this might be worth your time and money. So you can expect to see a walk around, all the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts. And huge thanks to Twin Falls Chevy for letting me borrow this one for the day. They discounted under MSRP. They ship anywhere in the country. I'll link it below if you're interested. Otherwise, let's dive right in with this review. And if you like Chevy, the recently redesigned Chevy Trax, or my video, please consider liking my video. That small act of kindness, it really goes a long way, and it helps me know you want to see more stuff like this, but also helps you because YouTube will then choose to show you more stuff like this. Thank you. But if you're new to the Chevy Trax, you need to know that this generation is actually the second generation that came out last year for 2024, and it's pretty popular. In the United States market, where I currently am, this can sell sometimes over 100,000 units a year. These are assembled in either China or South Korea, we should emphasize. So this one specifically was assembled in Korea because it starts with a K on the VIN number, and they're pretty popular, and as typical GM fashion is, they sell this vehicle in a different exterior for a few other of their brands and a few other of their markets throughout the world. So this is kind of a global platform, and even though it's one of the cheapest vehicles you can buy right now in the United States anyways, with a base model and LS starting at about $21,000, and the most loaded out 2RS or active starting at, around $25,000, this one is only the second trim level. It's the 1RS, so it has a lot of cool appearance packages, and it starts at around $23,000 before destination and then the extra goodies you want. So after this one has delivery added onto the MSRP and it's arrived here, it has the options that it does, the dealership is only asking around $24,000 for this. So it is a pretty affordable, pretty reasonable vehicle. And for $24,000, you're not going to find very many vehicles that look better than this. It even has LED headlights. It has Chevy Safety Sense. It has 18-inch black painted wheels and a few other features that are distinctive of the 1RS trim level. And whether in the sunshine or the shade, I honestly think Chevy did a really good job designing this front end, the front fascia, the front clip, whatever you want to call it. It looks really good. It looks angular, it looks aggressive. There's even a lot of ventilation through the grille. You can see all that cooling on the radiator right there. But it's not perfect. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And in fact, the biggest concern that people seem to have with this is what's under the hood with the 3-cylinder turbo engine. But we're gonna save that can of worms and open it up in about 5 minutes when we talk about that. Overall, for this being the second generation of the Chevy Trax, it's kind of surprising that it still has the same name as the first generation because it's about 11 inches longer. It's about 2 inches wider, and it has 6 more cubic feet of cargo capacity in the rear, making this a pretty different vehicle than the round, curvy, slightly smaller version that the first generation was. And with those larger dimensions, in general, this has become a better vehicle, and it still fits pretty darn easily into this parking spot. Overall, the vehicle is about 15 feet long. The wheelbase is about 9 feet, which helps make it feel more planted on the road. It's roughly 5 feet tall, 6 feet wide, so it does look fairly aggressive and have a pretty good stance when you're looking at it. It has only about 7.4 inches of ground clearance though, and these are only sold as a front-wheel drive vehicle. It has a 350 final drive ratio though, so it does put the power down fairly well, but it is a little bit more economically focused. It can do a full circle in about 35 feet, and it has a payload capacity of 943 pounds, which seems to be what all the trim levels that I've looked at are rated at. So you can carry 943 pounds worth of your favorite people and stuff in your all-new Chevy Trax. The last few things to mention on here is the gas door is located right there on the driver's side, but unfortunately, even when you lock the vehicle, the gas door doesn't lock, so the bums can attempt to siphon some of your 14 gallons of either E85 or 87 octane fuel. This is rated for about 28 city, about 32 highway, so your max road trip and range is just under 450 miles. And then the wheels and the tires, it's an 18-inch wheel. It's a Goodyear Assurance tire with about 9/32 of tread depth. And on this 1RS trim level, it's a 225/55/18. And then this is your key, which the cool thing about the 1RS is you even have remote start on your physical switchblade style key. So you can either pop off the center cap and use that if your battery dies, or just simply unlock the vehicle and open it that way. The driver's side door panel of the 1RS, it's good, but it's all black plastic materials. They're soft touch enough that they're gonna age well. They're not gonna be too uncomfortable, but they basically just like the Chevy plastics that are in like a work truck Silverado, the ones that Chevy is well known for using in a lot of their vehicles. Otherwise, you have a bottle holder. You have a snack pocket. You have an unnamed speaker. The speakers sound decent. They're not fantastic because for $24,000, you're getting a lot of other stuff for that money. Otherwise, there's nothing on the door still. You do have all-weather mats, rubberized pedals, the hood release. This is probably an access panel for the fuses, I'm assuming. And then you have some lighting options there, ventilation. Your lighting stock, and this is how you go through the infotainment screen. And then cloth seats, but they are heated. They advertise that they have airbags, part of the Chevy safety sense. And overall, they're actually really comfortable in all the driving I've done in one of these so far. But sitting inside the 1RS, this is really where a lot of your money is well spent. It's comfortable. Everything overall is very ergonomically designed for the average human of average height, I would say. Leather wrapped wheel on the top, some hybrid materials, flat bottom with, honestly, that's just plastic, but it feels really good. It looks really cool. The horn, you have your adaptive cruise settings and your heated steering wheel on the left. You have your voice and volume controls on the right. And here's your switchblade key, so when you fire it right up, it roars to life. You can see I've been getting over 33 miles per gallon in my driving so far with it. We're going to turn off the ventilation. And this is how you go through your display. There's really not a ton of information that you're going to get to see on this one, but you know, it gives you the basics. It gives you basically everything you need. And then this is the screen. Primarily what you need to focus on is the fact that you do have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, which is phenomenal. Really good system. The screen is responsive, and honestly, I'm pretty happy with it. Otherwise, physical buttons for HVAC, heated seats, some plugins down there, a 12-volt, a really nice storage cubby, which is actually quite large. And then you have your lane keep assist feature. You have your auto start stop button right here. Your reverse camera. Let's see how much of the screen. It takes up the whole screen, which is phenomenal. You can see this is the only option. It doesn't have a surround view or 360 cam like some other Chevys do. And bottle holders, you have a low gear if you want. This is a 6-speed automatic. And then electronic parking brake. Some storage right here. And then a Chevy storage console right there. That's deep, that's narrow. There's not really anything in there. Otherwise, up top, you just have incandescent lighting. This doesn't extend, and there's no extension off of it, and it doesn't slide either. And there's no lighting right there, so you can see the shortcuts that had to be made if you're going to buy a $24,000 vehicle. But overall, it's a nice place to be, and with that said, let's turn it off and hop in the back. This crimson metallic paint seriously looks so good in person, but when you open up the rear door panel, you get the exact same design on the passenger rear. It's all, you know, it's soft enough, but it's basically hard plastics. Otherwise, you have a bench style seat with a 60-40 split. It's pretty easy to grab the handle, unlock that, and to flip that thing around. It is actually a little bit heavier than I would have thought for such a thin cloth seat, but you have the back supports or the back protection with the cloth. You do have, ooh, actually, I don't see it. I don't see like child safety tie downs back there like Subarus and some other vehicles have. But overall, it's pretty nice. Sitting behind myself, my driving position at 5'11", I have about that much room in front of my knees. I don't have a map pocket on either side. I don't have ventilation or anything other than this empty storage bin. Probably just to save the expense of the plastic, the extra $2 it would cost to cover that up. But hey, I'm not complaining. I like storage bins. And nothing to fold down for your armrest. But you do have access to the rear because this is a hatchback style vehicle, and you do have an incandescent light up top. Otherwise, I only have about that much room above my head, so really not too much. And there's enough space I could ride in this across town, across the country, and it wouldn't be too bad as long as the ventilation can reach me back here, especially on a hot day like today. With that said, let's hop out and I'll show you the hatch. Back here, I think the rear of this vehicle looks pretty decent. Not quite as aggressive as the front, but it's still fairly angular. You can kind of see the lines, the hips, and everything on this vehicle. And honestly, it looks pretty good, but it's not power liftgate, so you can either climb through the back seat to access the hatch, or you can just push the button that's underneath the Chevy emblem. The hatch does feel kind of heavy. The shocks don't seem to do a fantastic job, and then because of the curves and the design of this, the hatch actually opens a couple feet higher than the roof of the vehicle, so just be careful if you have limited storage or room above your head to open this up, because it is probably at least a half foot above my head. But back here you have 25.6 cubic feet of room. If you drop the seats, which are pretty easy for me to reach anyways, you're going to have up to about 54 cubic feet, which is actually pretty substantial. And again, about 6 cubic feet bigger than the first generation. You have the top tethers for the child safety seats there. You have an incandescent light, a tie down. You have a little bit of storage behind the wheel wells. And under here, you should have a temporary spare tire. And you do, the tools you can just barely see are underneath between the holes of the steely wheel under there. But there's quite a bit of extra room in here. So comment below, what are you guys hiding in your non-insulated floor sheet metal of the Chevy Trax? Keep it legal, but I want to know, so comment in the description. Otherwise, if you're the lucky duck that gets to ride shotgun in the Chevy Trax, your door panel is going to look basically identical to the driver's side, minus a few of the extra controls. But overall, it's nice. It's nice enough. It's soft enough. Nothing really on the door sill. You do have another rubberized mat, and again, just non-powered mechanical seats to move, to recline, to slide forward with the bar. My backpack looks happy enough. I don't think it's complaining. No storage on the transmission tunnel. Nothing above the glove box. It's also not locking, but it's actually fairly large for this one. For a small vehicle like this, it's doing pretty good. Let's come around to the front though. I'll pop the hood and I'll show you what the 1.2 liter 3-cylinder turbo actually looks like. Under the hood is a little 1.2 liter 3-cylinder turbo engine. It makes a peak 137 horsepower at 5,000 RPM and 162 foot-pound-feet of the twisty stuff at about 2,500 RPM. So those are not phenomenal numbers, but when your vehicle only weighs 3,000 pounds, that's pretty much adequate. You have ventilation through the grille, through the induction, the tubing, the baffling, the piping. It gets through the turbo right there. You can see the O2 sensor, and then it comes back around probably from underneath, I'm assuming, or actually it comes back immediately right there, and then it goes through the intake side. Otherwise, you have all of your reservoirs up top, easy to get to. You have a fuse box, your battery right there. The serpentine belt and the alternator, they are on the passenger side because this is a transversely mounted engine. It's front-wheel drive. You can see the bracket holding the engine on the side. So you have to take the bracket off usually when you change out the serpentine belt on a lot of front-wheel drive vehicles. Maybe, maybe not on this one. So there's enough room that you can access things. It's a small enough engine that hopefully maintenance costs are actually going to be pretty easy, pretty affordable. With that said, let's drop the hood and take it for a drive. Initial driving impressions of the all-new 2025 Chevy Trax 1RS is it feels very similar to the 2RS that I drove. You still enjoy all the creature comforts of a heated steering wheel, heated seats, and even the cloth seats, which aren't as fancy in this trim level, they don't appear. They still are really comfortable. These Chevy seats actually do a really good job, and they're not very wide, so they don't take up too much of the interior volume of the vehicle. Visibility is still pretty decent for kind of a subcompact or compact crossover. It's not huge. The windows aren't as tall as like a Subaru Forester, but you still have really good visibility. And the A-pillar, the B, the C, they're not overly wide, so you do have pretty good visibility. And because it's only about 15 feet long, you can see right down the center rear view mirror. The side mirrors also do a really good job. I do wish this had a few more safety features, but for $24,000, can you blame it? It cruises really comfortably. The wind is not crazy today, so there's not a lot of wind and road noise. These Goodyear tires don't seem like they're kicking up any rocks. Currently, I'm going about 49. We're gonna slow down and take a turn and see how this does, and then we'll do a little bit of a power out. Yeah, it handles pretty well at about 20 miles an hour. There wasn't too much body roll or anything that isn't surprising. Otherwise, just driving it, it's comfortable. Everything's where you want it to be. I do personally feel like the armrest is kind of high, and if I raise the seat, I don't want to get too close to the ceiling because I like to have at least that much room above my head, or if I'm wearing a hat like I am today. But overall, it's a really nice driving experience. When you turn the wheel, you don't feel a lot through the steering wheel. The suspension actually didn't take that as well as I was hoping. This is definitely not a sports car. It didn't feel super confidence inspiring, but also you're not often gonna be turning at 50 miles an hour like I just did. Yeah, it's just not quite as stable and solid on the ground as I was hoping for, but also this only weighs 3,000 pounds. So without a lot of heft, without a lot of mass, what can you expect? And there is a nice little bump coming up right here. Let's see how this sounds and how it feels. Yeah, I felt that pretty good. I would feel that less in some of the other more expensive, bigger sidewall, just better dampened vehicles. But honestly, for $24,000, I can't complain one little bit. I think this is a good vehicle. I definitely think you guys should test drive one, but also test drive the competition. And with that said, let's get to the 0 to 60 and then we'll wrap this video up. 0 to 60 in the Chevy Trax. I'm going to brake rev the automatic transmission, but keep in mind density altitude's about 4,400 feet. So even though it's turboed, it's still going to be down on power, maybe 6 to 8%. Let's see what it can do. First gear is actually pretty good. Second gear is decent. and third gear slows down a little bit. But still, true 0 to 60 came in at 9.86 seconds, or a little bit faster if you discredit rollout. So for being a 3-cylinder turbo engine that's economy focused, that's really not too bad. Here are my final thoughts. My final thoughts of the 2025 Chevy Trax 1RS is I think it's pretty apparent, pretty obvious, probably from this review. I think it looks good. I think you can't complain about the price point and for what you're getting. You know, if you're going to pay half the price of the average vehicle transaction, which is completely inflated at about $47,000 currently, you're going to get, you know, at least half of what you would get on that vehicle. And this does it really well. I fit behind myself in the back seat. There's over 25 cubic feet of room, which is pretty similar, or actually a little bit more than a Subaru Crosstrek. It has LED lights. It has active controls for safety, like adaptive cruise control and lane keep and things like that. And honestly, it offers quite a bit for about $24,000. It even has decent wheels, decent tires that are Goodyear from the factory, tint on the rear, and quite a few other nice little bits that I wasn't expecting at this price point, like a heated steering wheel, like heated seats. Basically, if you're gonna buy this, it's gonna treat you well. It's gonna make you feel like you're in something more fancy, something more special. But the problem is, hopefully the 1.2-liter turbo engine holds up well. Hopefully it's reliable. Hopefully when you're having this weighted down with 943 pounds worth of payload and people and all the things in it, hopefully, you know, or if you're going over a mountain pass, if you're at a lot of elevation, hopefully this doesn't feel overworked. Hopefully that transmission and that engine combination is reliable beyond 100,000 miles. But I don't know, these are still pretty new. Read the forums, check them out, and always test drive the competition. Vehicles that you may or may not think you're interested in, check them out before you spend your hard-earned money. And with that said, if you guys like this video, please consider liking this video. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want this one, and if you want it shipped to you, you're welcome to check out the dealership link below. They're an awesome group to work with. And with that said, I wish you guys the best. I hope you take care. See ya.